Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Wednesday, September 10th, 2025. I am Dave Biddle, very happy to be joined by Matt Baxendell. All right, let's begin the show with bidding farewell to a legend, the Dean of Ohio State football recruiting, Bill Kurelic. He made the announcement yesterday on the show and also on the site. But, man, it's just been a pleasure working with Bill for almost 2 decades. He's been doing it for 4 decades, and it's just been an honor to work with him. He's a legend, and we're going to have him through the end of October. But, man, I look up to him in many, many different facets. And, he's still going to be around, but it's kind of a sad day. You know what I mean?
Very much so. I think Bill said he's been doing this for close to 45 years, and that's older than me. So, I remember I was a shiny-faced high school student looking at colleges in Western Massachusetts, and Ohio State was very high on my list at the time before I ended up going to school my freshman year of 2002. And I actually remember finding Bill, his name on the internet and going, okay, I'm pretty sure I read a Bill Kurelic article in high school. So being part of the Bucknuts staff, albeit in a very different role than Bill, has always been an honor. He's the godfather. He's a legend. Bill Kurelic is to Ohio State recruiting what names like, Tim May were to the beat, guys that were there just forever, right? Bill always did an awesome job. Bill always carried himself like a gentleman. And, I'm sure he'll go from being the GOAT of Ohio high school football recruiting to the GOAT grandpa. So we're going to miss him, but a well-deserved retirement for a great guy.
Absolutely. I'm happy for him. Yeah. And he's not like, he's leaving us to be, a T-ball head coach for his grandchildren. He's not going to another site or anything like that. He's not doing anything on his own. He actually is retiring, unlike my friend Tim May, who's retired and can't keep away.
Can't keep him away, right?
I love Tim's energy, and Bill has great energy as well. He just now's the time to spend a lot of time with his grandchildren. I mean, he could have retired a while ago if he wanted to. So we're lucky we had him as long as we did. We still have him through the end of October. It's not like he is no longer working for the site as of right now, but end of October. And you can't replace Bill with one guy. And eventually we're going to bring in 2 guys to kind of replace him. But the first guy that we're bringing in, Garrick Hodge, who I'm really excited to bring him on the staff. We'll have him on the show in the near future. He spent the last 4 years at 11 Warriors. He also has experience covering, I believe he covered the Missouri Tigers, covered Mississippi State during Mike Leach's first year down there. So he's got a lot of experience, but especially the last 4 years at 11 Warriors, I got a chance to know Garrick pretty well. I think he's very talented. He works hard. He's hungry. And again, he's going to be working alongside Bill till the end of October and learning as much as he can. And he already has been, does a good job covering recruiting. And then eventually we're going to bring in somebody else on top of that. But Garrick Hodge, I want to welcome him to the site, Bax.
Yeah, and he's a guy, if you've paid attention the last few years, has certainly been making his mark when it comes to covering all the stuff that Bill's sort of been known for covering. So, like you said, nobody's going to try to replace Bill one-on-one. That's not fair. As we've learned with Kalen DeBoer, replacing the GOAT directly is really hard and usually a no-win job. So we're not putting that expectation on Garrick here. But, it'll be a welcome addition to the site, bringing in some great knowledge and information. And, it's good that he'll get to work with Bill here for 2 months before Bill rides off into the grandpa sunset.
We've already had steak dinners with Garrick. When we would go to Indianapolis for Big Ten Media Day, would go out to St. Elmo, and Garrick would go with us along with Dan Hope from 11 Warriors. So he's a fan of the steak and the shrimp cocktail, so he'll fit right in. He did a really, really, really good job over there at 11 Warriors. All right, let's move on. Bid farewell to Bill. We welcome in Garrick, and let's move on now. So anything that has surprised you, good, bad, and different after 2 weeks for the Buckeyes?
That's a loaded question. There's a lot of stuff I think we can talk about here.
Talk for a while.
Let's start with the good. I'm very pleasantly surprised by what I've seen from Matt Patricia. We didn't know, right? Just like we didn't know with him with recruiting. We're like, how's this going to go? And it was sort of a pleasant surprise on the recruiting front. I think maybe we let things cloud, like the way things ended for him in the pros sort of cloud what he is as a football coach. I mean, remember, he was sort of didn't do great as a head coach in the NFL, went back to New England. They actually made him the offensive coordinator for a while under Bill Belichick down the stretch and then at the end of the day, we were like, all right, how's this hire going to go? And Patricia ended up doing a fantastic job. The first 2 games, the way he confused Texas, I think that is a very pleasant surprise to me that it turned out as well as it did. The level of detail, the way things were schemed to confuse Arch Manning, the disguising of coverages, those were all really, I would say that's my first pleasant surprise. And somebody commented how we needed a producer. If we had a producer, it would be like, pleasant surprise right on the screen. So that would probably be the first thing for me, Dave. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I am not surprised by Patricia. Like, I thought it was a home run hire, but like, I'm still like, maybe I didn't expect quite this level this fast, especially what they did against Texas. Like, if you told me they held Texas scoreless for 56 minutes, I'd be like, what? And I know Texas like was able to, get some yards mixed in, but like still that defense was just flying around. I love how fast and physical and just ferocious they are and how much Patricia's mixing things up. My biggest surprise, would probably be I didn't see, at least coming into camp, it wasn't a surprise by the time the season started, Phillip Daniels being the right tackle and Oniano being the 6th man. I thought it'd be the reverse, and like it doesn't seem like it was that close. It was from what I've been told, it's mostly Phillip Daniels taking the bull by the horns. It wasn't Oniano taking a huge step back or anything like that, or even a step back at all. It was just Phillip Daniels, 3rd-year sophomore, just having a great summer after a solid spring and just winning that job. And he's so physical. He's a character too. He's going to be a fan favorite. So that's probably one of my surprises. James Peoples is a surprise. I'll put that in the negative category. Like, yeah, I'm still really glad Jay Peeps is on this team, but like, I expected more out of him from 2 games. I didn't expect. Now he did start this past game against Grambling, but it sounds. I mean, they kind of showed. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, even if he started against Grambling, wasn't he the one who dropped that easy pitch in the red zone? He didn't get a lot of push against Texas. I think if we're getting to unpleasant surprises, James Peoples, so far at least, the early returns have not been what I think either of us were hoping for from him, especially after watching him run in limited opportunities last year.
Yeah. Again, hopefully we never need Julian Sayin to run the football this year. Where are you at on, because I'm getting flashbacks to like CJ Stroud where he didn't run at all till his final game in a Buckeye uniform. And like there were so many times where like, CJ, just run 10 yards, pick up the easy first down, get out of bounds. But it wasn't his fault. I think he was being taught not to do that. And I'm seeing that with Julian. I don't need Julian Sayin running against Grambling, but he didn't run at all against Texas. It's one of those things. If they did a naked bootleg, he'd probably score with ease if they have a big game. But where are you at on it? You think they need to, Julian needs to run the ball a little bit here and there?
I think the year with Stroud that both of us are vividly remembering, Ryan Day was literally like, don't you dare run that football unless you absolutely have to, because you're the only functional quarterback on the roster. I think that's what was going on behind the scenes. But I also don't think Julian Sayin is the same level athlete that CJ Stroud is running the ball either. Like, I'm not saying he's a bad athlete, but CJ Stroud had a very dynamic ability to his game that we really didn't get to see. So I don't know if it's an apple-to-apple comparison. I do think you're going to see some of that, though, with Julian Sayin, with some of these naked boots, with the opportunity to take off and run. But I don't think they're trying to use it early on. I think that they were trying to keep kind of the shrink wrap on him against Texas a little bit, control the game. Once it was obvious the defense was dominating, they didn't need to open things up for him. And then, it's Grambling. And, hey, this week it's Ohio. It's a really good Ohio team, but I don't think they're going to necessarily need to in that game either. To me, Julian Sayin with any design runs is a wrinkle you bring in a Penn State game or a Michigan game or something like that. I don't think he needs to be Mr., drop it down and go. And with the receivers he has, somebody's almost always going to be open. So I don't think it's quite like it was the year with Stroud where CJ had half the field to run and he just wouldn't do it at times. We were like, let's go. So, but I do think that eventually that has to be a component to the system, is that quarterback has to be at least somewhat of a threat to run the football when he leaves the pocket.
Yeah, like I didn't need to see him running at all against Grambling. Maybe not even this week. We'll get to Ohio University in a moment. They're a good team, but like seriously, once or twice a game in a big game. Like they could have put the Texas game away and not even given the ball back to Texas if they just would have had Julian run and he would have had an easy first down. Hey, didn't cost them the win or anything though, so I'm good. I'm still basking. I'm saying that's one thing that it's so important, I think, in big games for a quarterback once or twice to just pick up a cheap first down. Again, I don't need him back there running. I don't need him majoring in it. I don't need him minoring in it. Just once or twice in a big game, Penn State, those games.
Just put it on film even once or twice, just so that they have to think about it. That's the sort of thing that to us is like, all right, Sayin got 6 yards. That's cool. Yay, next play. And meanwhile, you have defensive coordinators like, son of a bitch, he's a runner now. So then they have to start preparing for it.
And help the running backs out too, because if you're at the goal line and he goes to hand the ball to C.J. Donaldson, if they have no respect for the quarterback run, they're going to collapse right on the running back. If he pulls that out, naked bootleg, that's an easy score in a big game. But we'll see.
Yeah, I'm just a keeper every now and then. It keeps him so honest. You're 100% right there, Dave. You know who else it would help too? In those scenarios would be our tight ends, particularly Max Clare, who's probably another one of the ones that I would like to see a little more from the first 2 games. I think I was the conductor of the Max Clare hype train coming into the season. And his debut with a drop against Texas on 4th down on his first series was inauspicious. But that's the thing is if Sayin has, if they're running a read option and Sayin keeps the ball, then there's still the RPO option on the pop pass too. And so you have different things you can make work. So, and, I think the Buckeyes need to find a way to get Max Clare involved more because he's what I thought would be Julian Sayin's best friend as a young quarterback. And, and Sayin's just like, I'm just going to hit the receivers. They're going to be open. I did not have Will Kasmerick as our leading tight end receiver after 2 football games. So
this tight end room is insane, man. Yeah, it'll come from Max Clare. They're just making sure he doesn't go pro and he comes back for next year, right?
This is like the video game where you manage your pros so that they don't go pro or they don't win the Heisman. Is that what we're doing here?
I think
All
so.
I know is we have 2 touchdowns to tight ends this year already, and Max Clare doesn't have one of them. That's a surprise to me.
Yeah, I would have lost that bet. 2 tight ends are going to have touchdowns after the first 2 games. One of them won't be Max Clare. Like what? Now they do have 5 really good tight ends. So, all right, let's get to this. Yeah, we have Las Vegas Buckeyes saying the biggest surprise to him has been Jalen McClain. Yeah, I'm not surprised Jalen McClain's a starter. I predicted that once I found out he was Iron Buckeye. I did not think that Malik Hartford wouldn't play a snap against Texas and McClain would be in there for every defensive snap. And he looks really good, Bax. Jalen McClain. I'm excited.
He looks the part, man. This is the thing about guys that have time to develop, and learn underneath some of these veterans. When you can stack elite players, the young guys are forced to develop and copy some of these elite habits. Like Caleb Downs, one of the big benefits of having Caleb Downs is that you have Caleb Downs. Duh. But one of the other benefits is all these other guys got 2 years to watch how Caleb Downs prepares, how he carries himself, what his process is to make himself an elite football player. And when you have the opportunity to learn and play under these guys, a lot of people poo-poo the mentorship side of it. It's enormous. You see it all the time in sports, right? Sidney Crosby lived in Mario Lemieux's basement 20 years ago. Look what happened from there, learning from the greats. It's every sport. So Jalen McClain was smart and paid attention before he had his chance to get on the field. And now Jalen McClain's on the field, and he looks good. He looks the part. And I'm pleasantly surprised that he's this good, but I'm not surprised that he's starting or playing reasonably well. He's just an extra level, I think, beyond what I expected early on.
It's a question that I get a lot, and I'm curious myself. Mike Schaefer on YouTube. Bax, when will Bo Jackson take over as a starter? This season? Next year?
Bo Jackson has something the other 2 don't, is my initial view. I didn't expect to see him against Texas because I doubted they'd put a true freshman in on that stage. Kind of like we didn't really open up Julian Sayin for that exact same reason. I am going to be fascinated to see how much more Bo Jackson plays against Ohio, and then whether they start trusting him in the game against Washington in a couple weeks after that to start Big Ten play. I think he's the most talented tailback on the roster. I think C.J. Donaldson has, that dog in him that he's going to be that bulldog between the tackles. But Bo Jackson looks like he's going to be the home run hitter. It looks like he's got the highest ceiling of the tailback room right now. I mean, is that how you see it, Dave? Because that's my view.
Yes. And there's just something about him that looks like he's gonna get 5 yards, he gets 8. And
he has this burst, he finishes downhill.
Exactly. He's always falling forward. The great running backs, more often than not, make the first man miss and they fall forward after contact. Yep. Everybody's going to get knocked backwards occasionally in football. Somebody's going to get you by the legs, and you get somebody else to get you up high. It's going to happen. But typically, if you're a good running back, like 95% of the time, roughly, you're falling forward after contact. I see that out of Bo Jackson. He's slithery, slippery. I just like it. But he's not a scat back by any means. He's, what is he, 215 pounds? I love him.
Yeah, he's
I love him. Yeah, I love him.
Dave, I'll throw this out there too. The coaches were getting on his ass late in the game against Grambling.
Yeah.
Over some ball control stuff and intelligence. And if that was a kid that they thought they were going to just park back on the bench, they probably would have tapped him on the head and said, all right, we'll look at it in film, young man. Said they pulled his ass off, denied him a touchdown that he had done a bunch of the work to get down to the goal line for, and shoot his ass out, which tells me they're like, we need you ready, because if you get your stuff together, you're playing. That's what that looked like to me.
Yep. The tough love from they have this huge banner they have at the WAC, tough love, and they practice that. Ryan Day preaches that, and nobody embodies that more than Carlos Laughlin. He mostly just the tough, and then he throws in a little bit of love. All right, let's get this.
Yeah, but people sometimes in life, Dave, they take criticism as like a personal affront. The whole purpose of tough love, and give me a second on this because this drives me nuts. Sometimes when somebody is just honest to you about something, you have to be able to handle honesty, because the person you lie to the most is yourself a lot of times, especially young people. So the tough love aspect of it, that's why you should want to come to a place like Ohio State. Like if I had a child that was like, in position to play a Division I sport, one of the number one things I would be looking at is, are the coaching staff going to go in and make sure that this young man turns into a mature adult? And are they going to push him to be his best? Or are they going to pat him on the butt and say he's super diddly duper and let him just go about his business? I want a guy who's pushing my child. And that tough love component makes these guys better. And that's not just sports, that's life. Like, do you parent your children, or do you let them tra-la-la around and get in trouble? Tough love is important because you still love them, but you're trying to make them better, period. And I love that. That's something that should be embraced by everyone.
Well said, sir. All right, let's go around. I was going to go around the Big Ten. Let's focus on our friends up north. This is from Michael on Facebook. What is your opinion about the cheaters up north's Bryce Underwood? I believe he's overhyped, overrated, overpaid, and underwhelming. Michael going in on Underwood. Listen, I've watched both the games. I mean, I will say he does look poised, but there's no way to sugarcoat 9 of 24. I know it's on the road. I know it's Oklahoma. I know that 9 of 24, and he's not a runner. He had -1 rushing yards against the Sooners. So is he going to be a good quarterback eventually? I have no doubt. This year, I think Michigan's going to continue to struggle.
Yeah, that was something we talked about, surprises early on. They talked about the wrong quarterbacks in all the preseason hype. Bryce Underwood was one of them at this point. And like you said, he's not a super duper athletic quarterback. That's somebody they paid $10 million to get to go to Michigan. Remember, this was a Michigan kid who wanted nothing to do with going to Michigan. He was going to LSU until like the guy who founded Oracle donated the money just to overpay him to get him to stay at home. So that's fine. But Bryce underwhelming is 100% correct right now. And also, like, let's be real honest here. That Michigan offense is pretty much Justice Haynes right now. I'm not surprised that Oklahoma beat them. It was a tough road start for a true freshman. Like let's be honest a little bit about that. But he also doesn't have a ton of weapons to throw the football to. And the other side of this is, like, both games I watched him in, including against New Mexico, I don't know if he was the better quarterback. It was Justice Haynes was pretty much been driving their offense. If you're Ohio State and you're game planning for Michigan, you're sitting there going, we need to stop Haynes. And if we stop Haynes, we have to feel pretty good about our chances to win the football game. I think Underwood is going to have a tough season. I won't be surprised when Nebraska beats Michigan in 2 weeks. They look like 7-5 to me right now early on. Even that New Mexico game, they weren't great. And I'm not convinced Oklahoma's, quote, back like everybody down south is right now either.
What about around college football? I mean, like everybody was touting Clemson as a dark horse national champion, and they lose to LSU. Then they almost lost to Troy. Clemson's not looking that good. On the flip side, I think a lot of people wrote off Oklahoma. Their over-under for wins was like 6.5. They look really good. Just go around college football? What are some of your impressions?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head there with Clemson. Look, everybody was like, oh, Clemson's got all these first-round picks, and they're going to be a top-5 team. And I'm like, isn't this the same team that lost 4 games last year? Like, am I missing something? Like, they got lucky in the ACC championship game just to sneak into the playoff where they promptly got pummeled. I don't think Clemson's anywhere near as good as people think they are. If they end up having a nice year, it's going to be the byproduct of a fairly weak schedule because they do have a fairly weak schedule. But Troy was beating them by 2 scores at halftime in game 2. So I think that's one that's like, all right. The other thing is in preseason football, like we should have done a pool on this. There's always a top 10 preseason team that finishes unranked. Always. Right. So is that going to be Clemson? Is that going to be Alabama? I'm interested to see who that's going to end up being. I think I am continuously surprised at how quickly the Alabama Death Star has fallen apart without the iron will of Darth Saban to keep him in there. I mean, he was like the emperor, and then Kalen DeBoer pretty much threw him into the reactor pit, and Alabama's turned into like a soft program at this point. Alabama's like all celebrating because they won 73-0 coming off that Florida State loss, and I'm like, who cares that you beat some FCS team? I think they have to play Georgia in 2 weeks. I'm going to be real interested to see what happens in that game. Because if Georgia punches Bama in the mouth, like they probably will, then the light on the Bama dynasty, I think, may officially be going out. So that's a bit of a surprise, I think, to me as well. Other surprises that I want to throw out there, I think Utah looks awesome. They absolutely demolished UCLA, who I didn't think would be good, but I didn't think they'd lose to UNLV bad either. Has anybody ever made a worse decision in terms of their career path than Nico Iamaleava from leaving Tennessee to go to a crap UCLA team? That's
less
not
money,
good.
I think, he's getting less money.
Yeah, less money and a lesser team. Like, what a dummy. But out west, here's the other thing I think that not enough people are talking about yet. I think everybody was like, we still think Oregon will be good. Oregon might be the best team this year. They beat Oklahoma State 69-3. And I know Oklahoma State's fallen off, but they scored like 105 yards worth of offense in 2 plays for 2 touchdowns to start the game. I am going to be fascinated to see what happens with Oregon when they go to Penn State in a couple weeks, because I think Oregon looks like a very, very, very serious national championship contender. And in my preseason prediction, I picked them to lose at Penn State. I would not pick it that way today after watching those 2 teams the first 2 weeks at all. Oregon looks very good to me. And let's see what happens when they play it again. Let's get the opponents up a little bit. But that team, it to me, looks like it has everything to do what they wanted last year's team to end up doing.
All right, last thing. Defending national champs against the defending MAC champs. Prime time. Ohio Stadium, Buckeyes versus Bobcats. So Ohio State's favored by 32.5. I thought it'd be a little lower than that. We were trying to guess on Sunday, I guess 29.5. So a little higher point spread. This is a very good, as I mentioned, very good Ohio University team. Defending MAC champs. They have a really good quarterback, Parker Navarro. I give him a lot of credit. I thought he'd probably transfer for his final year after having a breakout year last year as a first-year starter. He didn't. He can run it. He can throw it. As Ryan Day said himself, man, these guys are going to come up with their hair on fire. So you have a lot of guys from Ohio on this team. And Ryan Day didn't say this next thing, but I'm sure a lot of those guys from Ohio grew up Ohio State fans dreaming of playing at the Horseshoe. So, listen, I think the Buckeyes are going to be fine, but this is a good Ohio University team that's coming in here this Saturday night. Yeah, and I will say this too. So for everybody who's not aware, on the opening Thursday night of the year, they should have beaten Rutgers. Rutgers pulled it out late at Rutgers.
And then West Virginia went to OU last week. Athens had a sold-out football game, and they sent the Mountaineers back home crying with the 17-10 loss. So they held West Virginia to less than 3 yards a carry, and Parker Navarro went out, and they won that game by a touchdown despite him throwing 3 picks.
Right.
Despite him. So that tells you that game wasn't even 1 touchdown close. It should have been more if he threw 3 picks. So I put this in the bucket. I literally said, beware of the Bobcats. And, Parker Navarro ran for almost 100 yards last week too, Dave. I think he accounted for almost 400 yards of total offense, or like 350 yards of total offense as part of that win. And I'm just going to be real blunt. OU is going to come in. This is their Super Bowl. Most of those kids grew up probably cheering for Ohio State, wanting to be Buckeyes. They were not the tier of athlete that went to Ohio State or maybe even, the secondary Big Ten schools. But that team won the MAC last year in blowout fashion in the championship game. They are probably as good as some of the bottom-end teams in the Big Ten. And from an Ohio State perspective, okay, bottom-end Big Ten team, shrug, right? But the bottom-end Big Ten team playing with its hair on fire against a sleepy Buckeye team, I'm almost relieved this is a night game because our guys will at least be hyped up for under the lights, and we complained about never getting it under the lights. If this was a noon game, Dave, I would be telling you right now, I would be having shades of 2008, where Ohio State was losing at halftime 7-2 to the Bobcats before winning 26-14. And Chris Spielman was the sideline reporter in that football game. And Spiels was walking up the sidelines with the microphone, and they'd go down to him. He's like, Ohio State needs to start tackling. He was the angriest I've ever seen in broadcast. Like, Spiel was like ready to grab a guy's helmet and go tackle somebody. Like, it was the funniest thing I've ever seen. He's like, they're not revving up. Then it was like Sean Lane was the hero of that game. And I didn't look that up. That's been burned into my brain for 17 years watching that, because I'm sitting here going, are we going to lose to Ohio? So thank God this is a night game, because this is the best team Ohio has maybe had this century. And it'll be an interesting game. I think Ohio State's clearly better. And I think if they take it seriously, then there's nothing to worry about. But if this was a trap sort of position at noon, and by the way, that was the game that the Bobcat punched Brutus Buckeye. Do you remember that?
I know. Rufus, Brutus needs to get even with Rufus. Yes. That was a disaster all the way around. The score, I mean, it ended up not being a disaster. It still wasn't a pretty win by any means when you have to come back to beat an in-state MAC rival, MAC foe. But, Rufus coming and attacking Brutus. Brutus needs to, make sure that they should put, Anthony Schlegel in the Brutus costume, so you can just go down there and just take care of business. But all right, man, I know you got to get to work. I appreciate you getting up early and doing the show with me, my man.
Hey, happy to be on here. Happy trails, Bill Kurelic. Go Bucks.
Sir. Go Bucks. There he is. He is Mr. Matt Baxendell. You can catch his column every Sunday on Bucknuts. It is the bucket. So thank you very much to Bax. Thanks to all of you. We appreciate it very much. Hope everyone has a great rest of your day. Go Bucks.